Hey guys, tonight we're venturing back to a time and place so chilly. Even your trusty electric blanket and hot cocoa wouldn't stand a chance. Picture yourself in the harsh, unforgiving cold of the Viking Age. It's northern Europe around the 9th century, and the icy winds are whipping against your face. Snowflakes land softly on your eyelashes, turning them into tiny icicles as you shiver uncontrollably. Honestly, just thinking about it, you'd probably tap out after 15 minutes without central heating. I mean, let's be honest here, you definitely wouldn't survive long enough to even regret forgetting your fuzzy socks. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, drop a quick comment below, letting me know your location and the local time you're tuning in from. Let's see how far our virtual Viking voyage is traveling tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself stepping cautiously over ice-crusted earth, the sound of your boots crunching with every careful movement. The cold air bites at your cheeks, stings your lips, and makes your lungs feel strangely brittle. Above, the northern lights dance silently, a beautiful but deceptively cruel spectacle that offers no warmth, only the teasing illusion of comfort. And you start to wonder, how on earth did the Vikings, those legendary warriors, seafarers, and explorers, survive night after night of this relentless, bone-chilling cold? As you wrap your arms tighter around your body, desperately trying to conserve heat, you consider how much you take modern warmth for granted. Those Vikings didn't have space heaters humming reassuringly in the background or thermally insulated winter jackets engineered by NASA scientists. No, they had harsh wool animal skins, and maybe, if lucky, a blazing fire to stave off hypothermia. And yet, somehow, these ancient peoples thrived. They sailed through icy waters, settled frozen lands, and fought fearlessly through the kind of winters that make you seriously question whether or not hibernation should be an option for humans. Imagine lying down to sleep on frozen ground, feeling the cold seep into your bones as your breath crystallizes in midair. Your bed isn't a soft mattress topped with memory foam or a warm duvet. It's layers of rough hides and maybe some dried grass beneath you, prickling and itchy. Comfort wasn't exactly priority number one, survival was the name of the game. But, despite the conditions that might feel intolerable to a modern-day suburbanite, Vikings somehow managed to get a decent night's rest, at least decent enough to wake up, raid a few monasteries, and explore continents. But we'll get to that later. Historians still argue about just how resilient these ancient northern Europeans truly were. Some suggest that their legendary toughness was partly due to genetic adaptation. Others credit their sophisticated clothing techniques, and yet more believe they were simply stubborn enough to ignore the cold until it gave up trying to bother them. The real truth probably lies somewhere between clever survival tactics and sheer, uncompromising stubbornness. After all, Vikings weren't exactly known for backing down from a challenge. You glance at your hands and notice they're beginning to lose feeling. Your fingertips are turning an unsettling shade of blue, a gentle reminder from your body that it isn't built for this kind of torture. And yet, those ancient Vikings sailed across seas even colder than this, rowing relentlessly through frigid waves while water splashed and froze to their clothing. You start to question your own limits, and you realize how truly astounding their resilience must have been. As you trudge forward, every step feeling heavier, you start to feel a strange kind of admiration for these people who lived a millennium before central heating and fleece-lined gloves became the norm. Even with today's modern technology, you'd probably complain endlessly if your thermostat dipped below comfortable room temperature. Yet Vikings endured temperatures that regularly plunged far below freezing, with little more than determination, resourcefulness, and perhaps a hearty sense of humor to see them through. Of course, humor probably played a bigger role than you imagine. Imagine making jokes around a crackling fire, perhaps about how Eric lost his left sandal again to the ice, or how Olaf always seemed to fall asleep directly on the snow, snoring loud enough to frighten away polar bears. After all, if you couldn't laugh at frostbite, the dark winter nights might become unbearable. Suddenly, snapped from your thoughts as another gust of icy wind whips around you, reminding you again how completely unprepared your delicate modern self is for such brutality. The Vikings certainly weren't invincible. They got cold, frostbitten, and sometimes even perished from the chill, but overall, they managed something astounding, thriving in conditions that would send most of us diving under heated blankets indefinitely. So, tonight, as you settle deeper into your comfortably warm sheets, safe behind insulated walls and double-glazed windows, spare a thought or two for those hardy souls who had none of these luxuries, who somehow faced nights darker, colder, and far less forgiving than you or I can easily imagine. And while you drift towards sleep, think about how, even in the harshest environments, humans have always found ingenious ways to survive. Take another deep breath. Let the bitter cold fade into a distant sleepy memory, and remember you're snug and safe, and your toes aren't even slightly Let's just hope tonight you dream about adventures in Viking ships rather than getting stranded without Wi-Fi. Because honestly, one of those is definitely scarier than the other. But hold on tight, because our journey through the icy Viking world has only just begun, and trust me, it's going to get much colder and stranger before it warms up again. You push open a heavy wooden door, stepping into a dimly lit room that stretches far ahead of you, a Viking longhouse. Immediately, the cold seems to recede, not vanishing completely, but becoming more manageable, like your caffeine withdrawal after the first sip of morning coffee. Your eyes adjust slowly, scanning the shadows, noticing how the faint glow of firelight flickers along walls made from timber, earth, and straw. It feels safe, solid, reassuring, though admittedly still colder than the average modern home set at a cozy 72 degrees. You begin to notice something strange about the walls. They're made from compacted earth and clay, reinforced with wood, topped with layers of sod and turf. It's as if someone took the phrase "going green" a bit too literally and decided to grow grass on their roof. But here's the thing. Despite looking like a medieval landscaping project gone slightly wrong, this covered mud-walled structure was surprisingly effective at trapping warmth inside. The thick earthen walls insulated the longhouse, keeping out bitter wind and moisture. Essentially, the Vikings were living inside enormous, sturdy dirt blankets. Sure, it sounds unappealing, especially if your allergies flare up at the mere sight of pollen, but it worked incredibly well. You might sneeze uncontrollably, complain endlessly about the dirt everywhere, and desperately miss your allergen-free climate-controlled home. But the Vikings took pride in this muddy marvel of ancient architecture. Inside the longhouse, it's dark, but comforting. A smoky haze lingers beneath the wooden rafters, partially obscuring your view of animal skins, tools, and shields hanging casually on the walls. It's like someone threw a yard sale, but everything sold is fur-lined, battle-tested, or both. But don't worry, your eyes and lungs will adjust. Though maybe not fast enough to avoid coughing awkwardly at least a dozen times first. Here's another intriguing historical tidbit. Despite the smoke and seemingly hazardous air quality, Vikings rarely built chimneys. Instead, smoke from cooking fires drifted upwards, exiting through small holes in the roof usually. Sometimes, though, the smoke decided it preferred to linger indoors, especially on calm, windless days, swirling lazily around your head, making you squint and cough in mild irritation. It's a stark reminder that Viking life had its share of inconveniences, even while their survival techniques were impressively resourceful. Speaking of those survival techniques, Vikings designed their houses intentionally narrow and elongated, a strategic choice to maximize heat retention. You see, a centrally placed fire pit heated the longhouse efficiently, radiating warmth throughout the entire space. Think of it as an ancient form of central heating minus the thermostat, and with added risk of accidentally setting your home ablaze if you weren't careful. But hey, no technology is perfect, right? In fact, Vikings treated their central fire pit as something sacred, essential to their survival. It was the literal heart of the home, where meals were cooked, stories shared, and warmth provided. Picture everyone gathered close, faces glowing softly in the firelight, quietly grateful for the simple comfort of heat, even while smoke irritated their eyes and clothes absorbed that permanent scent of burnt wood. This probably explains why Vikings preferred dark-colored garments. Soot stains are far less noticeable on black fabric. Historians still debate just how comfortable or uncomfortable these longhouses actually were. Some believe that Vikings adapted readily to the smoky environment, barely noticing it after a while, like how you hardly notice the questionable smell of your favorite fast food restaurant once you've sat there a few minutes. Others argue that constant exposure to smoke caused chronic respiratory problems, something the Vikings simply endured because, well, what's a bit of coughing compared to freezing to death? And if you're imagining privacy, think again. Viking longhouses housed entire families, extended relatives, livestock, and possibly an occasional guest or two, everyone under the same roof, all winter long. Imagine your cousin's noisy chewing echoing nightly through the room, or the comforting lullaby of snoring from your great-uncle Sven. Sure, modern apartment living has its quirks, but at least your roommate isn't an actual cow chewing cud inches from your sleeping face. In the corners of the longhouse, livestock provided extra warmth and companionship, though you probably wouldn't cuddle up with a goat unless things got seriously desperate. Still, these animals served a dual purpose: food and warmth. Livestock body heat contributed significantly to indoor temperatures, essentially turning the longhouse into a combined living room, kitchen, and barn. Functional, certainly. Cozy, maybe, if you ignore certain odors. But let's pause for a moment to appreciate the sheer ingenuity of these ancient people. Vikings didn't simply endure the cold, they adapted remarkably well, building homes that protected them from temperatures most of us would flee from instantly. The longhouse is a testament to human resilience, creativity, and determination, often overshadowed by tales of Viking raids and warrior bravado. You might even begin to envy their simpler, more sustainable way of life. After all, Vikings lived in homes literally built from earth, grass, and timber around them, harmonizing seamlessly with nature or by it, in a smoky, itchy, mildly claustrophobic kind of harmony. As you sit by the fire in this imagined Viking longhouse, Feeling gradually warmer, you realize survival isn't just about enduring hardship, it's about creating comfort within it. And sure, you'd probably trade a year's supply of avocado toast just for a single electric heater. But deep down, you feel oddly respectful of their strength and ingenuity. Tonight, tucked safely beneath your soft blankets, surrounded by your comforting modern conveniences, perhaps spare a moment of gratitude for these long-forgotten builders and survivors. They might have sneezed endlessly, coughed persistently, and inhaled more smoke than is advisable. But they found clever ways to thrive in places most would deem uninhabitable. Now, gently let yourself drift away, secure in your comfortable room. No smoke or animals required, just a warm, restful sleep. And maybe, just maybe, you'll dream tonight of fires crackling in smoky longhouses, reminding you how lucky you are to visit these Viking memories from a safe, comfortable distance. Don't rest well, my friend. We've still got plenty more cold weather secrets to uncover as we continue our journey deeper into the cozy, curious world of the Vikings. You find yourself drawn closer to the fire at the heart of the longhouse, feeling its warmth seep slowly into your bones. The flames dance gently, crackling and popping in a rhythmic, almost hypnotic melody. It's soothing, like one of those lo-fi playlists you put on when studying, except here, there's no skip ad button, and your homework is survival itself. You settle onto a rough wooden bench, stretching your stiff fingers towards the comforting blaze. It's at moments like this you appreciate just how essential fire was, not just for warmth, but for life itself in the Viking Age. The Vikings revered fire, understanding intuitively that it represented more than mere heat. It symbolized safety, nourishment, and community. Imagine a life where the nearest microwave was about 1,000 years away from being invented. Cooking over an open flame was your only option. Meals took patience and skill, roasting meat on spits, boiling soups in heavy iron cauldrons, and baking bread on hot stones. You'd probably burn a few loaves along the way, but the Vikings got the hang of it pretty quickly. They had to. There were no pizza delivery services to fall back on. Here's something peculiar the history books often gloss over. Vikings frequently burned animal bones as fuel. It may sound bizarre, almost like recycling taken to the extreme, but bones burned hotter and lasted longer than ordinary wood. After finishing a feast of roasted deer, rather than discarding leftover bones, Vikings tossed them onto the fire, creating a hotter, steadier flame. This wasn't some eco-friendly gimmick, it was practical ingenuity. Of course, if you're imagining the smoky aroma of burnt bones filling your house, let's just say it wouldn't exactly inspire a popular scented candle today. Historians remained fascinated by this bone-burning habit. Some argue it was primarily practical, a clever tactic born from necessity due to limited fuel sources in colder climates. Others suggest it had deeper symbolic meanings, a way to honor the animals that fed and clothed them. After all, Vikings weren't known for doing things halfway. If burning bones kept them warm and pleased their gods, it was a win-win. You shift slightly on your wooden seat, noticing for the first time the countless tiny scratches and carvings covering its surface. Names, symbols, tiny doodles etched by bored children or thoughtful adults during long winter evenings. You smile quietly, realizing people haven't changed much, whether in the 9th century or now. Everyone gets restless sometimes. Maybe those ancient carvings were the Viking equivalent of scrolling mindlessly on your phone. Minus the eye strain. Returning your gaze to the flames, you ponder the logistics of keeping such a vital fire burning continuously. Fires in Viking households were rarely allowed to go out completely, especially during winter. Families took turns carefully tending embers through the night, often sleeping in shifts. Letting the fire die meant risking frostbite or worse. Reigniting it was a daunting task without matches or lighters. Try rubbing sticks together in sub-zero temperatures at 3 a.m., and you'll quickly understand why this was avoided at all costs. Fire maintenance became a delicate art form. Ashes from earlier fires weren't discarded randomly. Instead, they served a purpose, banking up around hot coals to protect embers from being extinguished by drafts. The Vikings understood airflow too, strategically positioning their fire pits and vents so air would feed, rather than smother, the flames. Think of it as a primitive thermostat without the convenience of complaining to a landlord if things got too cold. But it wasn't all perfect, of course. Sparks occasionally popped from the fire, landing on clothing, blankets, or even the roof. Small fires could break out, requiring quick thinking and even quicker reactions. It's unlikely you'd ever panic more than realizing your housemate, mostly of dried grass, earth, and wood, had just caught fire. Luckily, Vikings had contingency plans, always keeping water and sand close by. After all, setting your house ablaze accidentally in the dead of winter wasn't exactly an ideal Viking way to go out yet. Despite these dangers, the fire remained central to Viking life. It provided more than physical warmth, it offered emotional comfort. Families gathered around it, sharing stories, recounting myths, and singing songs. Picture the warmth not just from the flames, but from the laughter and shared camaraderie, knitting together their bonds, making even the harshest winters feel manageable. Fire had another practical use rarely mentioned. Vikings relied on its Smoke to preserve food. Meats and fish were hung from rafters above the fire pit, slowly smoked to prevent spoilage through the winter months. Imagine the smoky, salty taste permeating your every meal. Delicious, perhaps not always. Essential, absolutely. If your fridge ever broke down, you'd probably wish you had some smoke-preserved salmon hanging around as backup, though your neighbors might question your choice of kitchen decor. Some historians continue to debate whether the continuous smoky environment contributed negatively to Viking health. Chronic coughing, lung issues, or watery eyes might have been commonplace. But others believe Vikings adapted, perhaps even developing genetic tolerances. After all, you rarely see depictions of Vikings sneezing uncontrollably during their epic battles, though admittedly, that would make their tales far more relatable and hilarious. Now, as you stretch your hands again toward the flame, feeling comfort in its radiance, you might start to understand how the fire became almost sacred. It kept darkness and cold at bay, provided nourishment, preserved food, and offered a warm glow around which communities flourished. Fire wasn't merely functional, it was life-giving. Tonight, as you drift toward sleep, cozy in your soft blankets, perhaps spare a grateful thought for the simple flicker of flame. Consider how warmth, something you can summon with the flick of a switch today, once demanded tireless vigilance, ingenuity, and respect. So relax now, feel safe and secure, knowing your own warmth tonight doesn't require tending a smoky fire pit. Let the gentle crackling of imagined flames lull you deeper into restful slumber, whispering softly of times long past, reminding you gently how lucky you are to experience this ancient warmth from the comfort of your modern bed. Sleep well, friend. Our Viking journey has much more warmth and wonder still waiting just beyond the glow of this imagined fire.
You wake to the sound of embers snapping. The forge still glows, though dimmer now. The old man is asleep in his chair, head tilted back, mouth slightly open, like someone who hasn't rested in years and finally gave in. His hands are still black with soot. The hammer lies at his feet. Your shoulder aches, stiff but manageable. You test it slowly, flexing your fingers, rotating your arm just enough to wince. Outside, the wind has quieted, but the light coming in from the crack beneath the door is strange, blue-gray and cold. The snow hasn't stopped. It's just gotten heavier. More final, somehow. You sit up, brush ash off your clothes, and look around the little forge. There's a single shelf on the back wall, stacked with iron scraps, broken tools, and, oddly, a bundle of herbs hung to dry. Probably for the forge's fire. Maybe not. You spot a battered kettle beside a stack of clay cups. You pour some water into the kettle and hang it above the coals. The man stirs. "You're still here," he rasps, rubbing his eyes. You nod. "Didn't want to freeze solid." He snorts. "Smart." The kettle whistles. You hand him a steaming cup, and he sips slowly, like it's gold. After a moment, you ask, "Do you ever wash?" His mouth curls in a lopsided smile. "Only when it rains warm." The two of you drink in silence for a while. Then he asks, "You know how to make a fire?" You nod, cautiously. "Good. Because most people don't anymore." You raise an eyebrow. He leans forward, warming his hands. "They think it's just about striking flint. But you need dry kindling. Patience. The right shape. A fire's like a beast, you have to feed it slow, or it chokes." You think about that. About the fires you've seen, if you could even call them that. Smoky heaps, barely warm enough to thaw your boots. The burning dung back at the old woman's cottage. The wet logs that hissed more than burned. You ask, "What if you don't have wood?" He shrugs. "Then you burn what you have." You nod, but your stomach turns at the memory of the dung heap. "You want to live through winter," he says. You give up pride. Pride doesn't warm your bones. You finish your drink. Then he says something that makes you pause. "You bathed recently?" You blink. "Excuse me?" He gestures vaguely. "You smell like someone who's still alive." "Most don't by now." You laugh, maybe too loudly. It echoes strangely in the forge. Bathing in winter. Now that's a topic. Because in the medieval world, bathing during the cold months was not only rare, it was often seen as dangerous. People believed that washing in cold weather could let the cold in. That it opened the pores, made you vulnerable to illness, or worse. Some thought you'd catch death the minute you stepped out of a hot bath into cold air. And in fairness, they weren't entirely wrong. With no insulation, no towel heaters, no blow dryers, bathing in winter could kill you. One icy gust through a cracked window while your hair was wet, and suddenly you're shivering, your chest is tightening, and the village priest is preparing last rites. Bathhouses used to be a thing, especially in towns. Communal, warm, and surprisingly social. But by the 14th century, thanks to plague paranoia, they'd started closing down. People became suspicious of shared water, of warm steam, of skin. By winter, everyone stank. Even the rich. You mention this out loud, and the old man chuckles. That's why we kept rosemary in our clothes, he says. Not for health. Just so we could pretend we smelled like plants instead of sweat. You grin. So you've never bathed in winter? He leans back. Once. In 41. Slipped into a half-frozen stream trying to chase a pig. What happened? Lost the pig. You both laugh. And for a moment, the cold outside feels far away. But you know it's still there. Eventually, the old man stands. His knees pop like old hinges. He walks to a barrel by the door and lifts the lid. Inside is a mix of wood chips, bits of dried peat, and something else. Smells sharp. Herbal. A medieval fire starter blend. He scoops a handful into a leather pouch and tosses it to you. You'll need it, he says. You nod, slipping the pouch into your bag. Thank you. He waves it off. Don't thank me. Just don't freeze. You step toward the door. Snow piles high against it. You brace, then push, hard. It groans open. The outside world is white. Blinding. You shield your eyes. The snow reflects light like glass. Everything glows. You turn back to him one last time. What's your name? He considers for a moment. Then, does it matter? You smile. Guess not. And with that, you step out into the brightness. The cold slaps you across the face like it missed you. Snowflakes dance on your eyelashes. Your breath catches in your chest. But your boots are dry now. Your shoulders wrapped in linen. And there's a little pouch of warmth in your pack, clinking like a promise. You pull your cloak tighter, face the wind, and start walking. Because winter's not over yet. And you've got miles to go.